Hey guys, Scripture here with another video, and this one touches home for me. I used to watch this show. It was really geared towards me and my age group at the time when it originally came out, but it also pertains to just this whole woke mind virus, and sometimes you get a positive thing that happens, a positive counter that makes you feel good, and this is one of those ones. Power Ranger star Walter Emmanuel Jones denies racism behind his Black Ranger casting, calling it a mistake would dismiss the impact it had on countless people. Wow, almost like not talking about superficial garbage is a good thing. And focusing on other positives is better. Rather than looking at his Black Ranger casting as a case of unconscious racism, Mighty Morphin Power Ranger star Walter Emmanuel Jones says that he views his time tuned into the Morphin grid as nothing less than an honor. Oh, so he's not going to complain retroactively? Oh, John Boyega, take a page, buddy. Take a page. He's not going to, he's not only is he not blaming fans, he's not blaming the studio either. He's just keeping his mouth shut and being a good person and a positive person. At the end of the day, he agreed to do the role. And you know what? He probably didn't even think about the fact that it was a black suit. In fact, I guarantee it. He's just like, woo, I get to be in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And the studio didn't think about it either. They're looking back at this. And we'll get into this, some of the stupidity that's been talked about lately. The latest round of Power Rangers related discourse kicked off on April 8th, courtesy of former series writer and Saba, otherwise known as Tommy's White Ranger era talking Tiger Saber, voice actor Tony Oliver, appearing as a featured speaker on the newest episode of the investigation discovery underbelly of the entertainment industry, docuseries Hollywood Demons, itself aptly named Dark Side of the Power Rangers. I didn't even know that existed. That's depressing. Oliver lamented how despite the fact that none of us were thinking stereotypes, okay, so if you weren't thinking about it, if you didn't purposely do it, when casting Jones as Zach Taylor and the late Thoy Trang as Trini Kwan, the series was able to run for a full 2 seasons without anyone calling out the fact that the Black Ranger was a Black Ranger, the Black character was the Black Ranger and the Asian character was the Yellow Ranger. So someone did say something after 2 seasons? I didn't even think about it. And he's saying he didn't either. But we got to talk about it now, 2025. Why do they do this? Why can't you just leave well enough alone? The Mastodon Dinozord. Yes. My assistant pointed it out in a meeting one day. Oh, well, you better make some changes. Your assistant pointed it out, said the Green Ranger's namesake of the moment he realized the connection. It was such a mistake. No one cares.
Nobody cares.
This is 30 years ago. More than 30 years ago. Why do people do this? And he's just doing this to virtue signal. Dude, it's done. It's been done for 30 years, and now all of a sudden when it's trendy to talk about this stuff, you're talking about it. Dude, I just lost total respect. It's gone. I have no respect. What an idiot. Is it just you just haven't had any attention lately? What's the deal? However, while Oliver seems to be fermenting in guilt over this casting decision, which, speaking frankly, every person who ever watched or even know of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had long laughed off as one of those, oh wow, how did no one catch that funny coincidences? Yeah, it's a nothing burger. You're just trying to make yourself look like you care about what? Because black people don't even care. No one cares that this happened. Asian people don't care. No one cares. But I care. I'm Tony. I care. Oh, Tony, thanks for caring so much 30 years later. You're so awesome. Here's a multi-million-dollar project to do. Jones himself could not disagree more with this retroactive read of his arguably most famous role. Taking to his personal Instagram account on April 10th, Jones shared a number of headlines from various outlets covering Oliver's mistake, quote, admission, and responded, "Incredible how many media outlets pick this up. However, while some choose to seek out the negative, I've always believed in focusing on the positive." Well, and that's why Tony did it. It's attention seeking. You're not coming out and saying this 30 years later when people are making a big deal. And when I say people, the media is making a big deal about retroactively criticizing stuff from the past and totally ignoring the massive strides that have been made. That's the one thing you notice about everything on a certain side of the spectrum, is that everything's negative all the time. There's never talk of anything positive. I'll give you an example. The whole climate change thing. So I personally don't believe that 400 parts per million is trapping heat. Okay, that's just my own personal opinion, whatever. But let's say it's all true in the science and all that stuff, right? They've made huge strides in terms of technology over the last 40, 50 years, in terms of fuel consumption for vehicles, even for gas-powered vehicles, is half of what it used to be, and if not even less. And then all the other technologies to trap carbon and, in the oil field, bring, those areas back when they're finished extracting, then they go back and they replant all the trees and they do all this stuff. The fact that the emissions that are being released are so much cleaner, at least in the West, right? Are so much cleaner. But all we get inundated with all the time is how bad it is and how crappy we are and how we're evil and we use too much. But there's never, ever anything positive. And it's the same thing with this. It's like even Bill Maher talked about it, how there's race relations have made humongous strides. But all these people do, all the media does, and guys like Tony and all these losers looking for attention, all they do is talk about how bad it is. But they don't even talk about how bad it is now. They go back 30 years, 40 years, and criticize things that happened then. But back then, it was actually better. Why? Because no one even noticed. It took a couple years before somebody was like, wait a minute, right? So this whole thing is getting really old. It's getting really depressing. And the general public, I don't know if the media understands this, is sick of it. We're sick of it. I'll happily make this video and talk about it and praise Walter Jones. But ultimately, this shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't even be discussing this crap. But the media just loves it. They love criticizing their own country. They love criticizing the people inside the country. They just love to just take this sort of... they're almost like the priesthood at this point, right? Like the Puritans. They think they're like... They're there to tell everybody how bad they've been over the last 40, 50 years. Look at how evil you all are. But it's Tony's own fault, and he's looking for attention, and he's a dipstick. And I love this guy because he's not falling for it. And again, John Boyega. I understand the impulse to address what might be seen as a cultural insensitivity, but calling it a mistake would dismiss the impact it had on countless people around the world who found inspiration and representation in TV's first black superhero, morphin into none other than the Black Power Ranger. It wasn't a mistake, it was a milestone, it was an honor. Is that true? Was he the first on TV? I mean, I don't really care either way. It doesn't matter to me whether, who's the first. Either way, he was just a cool character, right? Regardless of what he looked like. Or what he looks like. He's just a cool character. I liked him. I don't know, he's just a cool character. I'm happy he responded to this. This needs to happen more. We need more sanity to prevent these Puritans that think they're better than everybody else and constantly talking negative and making everything about our lives bad and negative. Call them out. Tell them how stupid they are. Yeah, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a milestone. It was an honor. Swipe to hear me speak more about it on the recent episode of the Jim Cummings pod. Okay, so you can guys check that out if you're interested. In providing evidence that his opinion was not a knee-jerk one, but rather one he had held for a long while, Jones pointed to a March appearance he made on famed actor Jim Cummings' Tuned In with Jim Cummings podcast where he discussed this very topic. Well, there you go. I found it quite powerful, the actor said, of his time behind the controls of the Mastodon Dinozord, because here I am, a young black kid from Detroit, predominantly a black city, and the time that I grew up in was a time where there was James Bond saying loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Excuse me, James Brown saying loud, I'm black and I'm proud. So it's like there was a shift from being ashamed of being black to people being very proud of being black, and growing up in a black city and then becoming a black superhero in a black suit. I was like, let's go, this is perfect for me. And then now you're shamed by the media and by other black people if you don't think the exact same way that the collective is supposed to think. So so he's saying they made progress, and then in the 90s, progress, and then the mid-2000s hit, and it's just gone down from there. And now if you don't fall in line and think exactly the way this person thinks, I've actually seen videos, okay, of some of these protests. This is nuts, okay? Sometimes I like to watch like street interviews and stuff because some of them are funny and some of them are controversial. I've actually seen street interviews recently where white liberal women have accosted black conservative men for being conservative. That they're traitors to their race. White liberal women.
Of course you're not, because you're a fascist. You're a trace. You're a race traitor and you're a fascist.
Now we know that there other black people have said that about black people. on The View and stuff like that. Now it's got to the point where white liberal women are saying that to black people because they aren't the same as they think they should be politically. How dare you think for yourself? Right? So we made all this progress, and now we're right back down into the doldrums. And I like that this guy, that Walter's saying, I don't care. I'm going to say the truth, and I'm not going to get sucked into your dumb collective hive mind, Puritan, holier than thou, social construct. That's really what it is. So good for him. Good for him. And we need more of this. Thank you for this. The idea of me being a black suit never bothered me. In fact, I was happy about it. When I saw it, I was like, I want this one. And they were like, that's yours. Uh-oh. So what would have had to have happened is to correct this, that would have had to have happened in the moment. He would have had to say, hey, I want this one, and picked up the black suit. And then Tony, who's a white guy, Tony Oliver would have to say, oh, well, sorry, Walter, because you're a black guy, you can't wear a black suit because we don't want to offend people. Oh, but I really like the black suit. Well, I'm sorry. You don't get to choose. Oh, that's better. Hey, guys. Like, this is how stupid things have become. Like, he just liked the suit, man. Like, and in all honesty, in terms of, like, the colors, honestly, if it was me... Okay, the green guy, he wasn't there originally. So take out green. I wouldn't have wanted to wear red. That's too flashy. Blue. I would have picked the black one too, quite frankly. It's the coolest looking one, as far as I'm concerned. And then green came along, and his is cooler because he's got the gold stuff and I don't know. But his was definitely the coolest suit at the beginning. So he picked it because it looked cool. He wasn't thinking about, oh, I'm black, so I have to not pick the black one because blackness. Like, stop talking about this crap so much. Anyways, really happy to see Walter Jones push back on this. This needs to happen more often because it's stupidity. It was his big break. Who cares? It was a stupid suit. Wow. They're just so desperate to create controversy and be negative. And this is why the mainstream media is dying. A lot of people in Hollywood still don't get that, and they're still clinging to it, and they're still trying to use it for attention, but they don't realize that it is dying. As, the next 10, 15, 20 years go by, the mainstream media that pushes this crap, it'll be completely gone. It's going to die off with boomers and older people, and it just won't exist anymore because the rest of us see what they're doing and think it's stupid. Anyways, let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like, subscribe. Always helps the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.